Okay, we're going to look at compound interest rate, but we're going to change the compounding period. In grade 9 and 10, when we did compound interest, it was always yearly, annually, so it kind of looked like this. If you had 15,000 Rand and you wanted to invest it for 3 years, that's what the formula looked like. You went 1 plus the interest rate to the third power times 15,000, and that's it. 3 years to the third power. But what if we did it not just every year, but twice a year, so that every 6 months? What would that look like? Well, let's take a look at it. Well, that means after 6 months it would compound, and then after a year, and then after 18 months, and then 24. All the way, it's going to compound 6 times, because it does twice a year. So you go 3 times 2 is 6. So you put it to the 6th power. But you don't have the full interest. You have 0.15%, you have 15%, 0.15 divided by 2. So if it's twice a year, you divide by 2. That's half yearly. What if it's quarterly, which means every 3 months? Every 3 months it compounds. Well, 3 years times 4, that's 12 quarters. And you take the interest, 0.15, and you divide whatever the period is, you divide by 4, and then put it to how many times it compounds, which is 3 years times 4, which is 12. Put that, look, hey, it's getting to be more money. There's 150 Rand, it's another 150 Rand doing it quarterly. We're making more money when you compound more. Well, let's take a look at this one. This is the most common one, monthly. So 3 years, 3 times 12, that's 36 months. So you put it to the 36th power. And because it's monthly, you divide by 12. Just put that same thing in your calculator and you get quite a bit more money, 23,459. And this is by far the most common period used in exams. So that's a really good one to know. What if we did it every day? Then we divide by 365, and we go 3 times 365. We put it to this big power here, and you'd get even more money. It doesn't increase so much for the amount of times that we're doing it, but it still goes up by 70 Rand there. So this effect sort of starts to tail off a little bit. Okay, let's look at some questions here. What amount has to be invested for 2 years at 10%, compounded half yearly, in order to get to 10,000? Well, there's the formula. There's A equals P times 1 plus I, but it's compounded half yearly, so you divide by 2 every 6 months. And that's how many periods is 2 years? That's to the 4th power. And then you just divide. You want to find P to figure out what P is, the money you started with. You divide by 4. Hey, but when you divide by something, it's really multiplying by the negative exponent. Hey, that's a really interesting thing to notice. Take a look at this example here. When you multiply, say you had 16%, 4,000 for 6 years at 16%. Well, there's 16%, but it's compounded monthly. Compounded monthly. I divided by 12. 6 times 12 is 72. That's how much money you'd have right there. But what if you had this amount of money and you wanted to know what you started with? How would you do that? Well, you'd take that money and then you would divide. You'd have P here and you divide. But there's a quick way, like a formula you can use. If you want to get from what you finished up back to what you started, all you do is multiply by 1 plus the interest rate to the negative number, and it'll send you all the way back to get the money you made in the beginning. Hey, that's a pretty good trick. That's a really good trick, and we can use it later on. Okay. There's the formula. If you want to find P, it's A times 1 plus I to the minus N. Okay. Well, let's just take a look at a bit of a question here for Paula. She invests 20,000 Rand, and all these different rates at 15%, compounded at all these different rates. Well, there it is annually, 0.15. That's like we did in grade 9 or 10. And there's the money. What about half yearly? Divide by 2, and then 2 times 6. Just put it in your calculator. That's not so hard. What about quarterly? That means every 3 months. Well, you divide by 4, because it happens 4 times a year. And then you've got 6 years, 6 times 4 is 24. Put it in your calculator, there's the answer. Monthly, that one that's most common, 6 times 12 is 72. And then you're dividing by 12. Put it in your calculator and it does it in a flash. And even daily, 6 times 365.15, that's the thing you'd get in your calculator. Okay, there's some other problems. I have lots of problems here where you have to look or solve for another variable. But you can, if you've got a computer at home, you can do each question and then get the answer like that. Try the question and then you can check the answers. So there you go. You give it a try.